not taught how to do it. And so that's where my passion became. I started seeing so many GoFundMes and, a lot of people that wanted the GoFundMes is because they didn't have the right protection, because they didn't have the understanding and know that it doesn't cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to put that stuff in place. Let me show you how to save, $100 a month to build that for you. And these are the things that were not being taught in our communities, and they were not getting the education from those things. So as I continue to grow and I just paid more attention, it became a desire of mine to be able to get out there and teach. And like minds, think alike. And I started looking and hanging out with more of the same type of mindset of the people that had the same passion. And we just started, we just wanted a crusade. So when I started my company, Bridging the Gap Financial Services, one of the reasons why I called it Bridging the Gap is because we need to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, as Tyler Perry would say, right? The haves and the have-nots. Let's show the have-nots how to have, right? And it all starts with education, changing the mindset on how they look at things. And so from that passion, I really started working in that field. I started hearing so many, I would call them stories, could be horror stories about people, and they lost their wealth, they build their wealth, they have medical issues, things like that, that really made me want to really be passionate in this field. And from my own story, I share a little. I know Dr. Lisa, you don't share your story enough. But in 2016, when I started all this, probably about 30 days later, I got sick. I woke up with a headache that changed my life, right? That headache ended up being a brain tumor. And I was in a hospital for over 30 days. And working with my company, I was making over $200,000 a year. But when I got sick, guess what they did? They let me go. And so I was counting on all those benefits and things like that I had put so much money into and time. Well, I didn't know that when they let you go, guess what? You're not active anymore. So that means that all those benefits that I paid for throughout the years, my life insurance, my health insurance, all of that was rolled over to a COBRA plan that I had to pay $2,500 now a month because I was put up under a COBRA plan without any income. So it was these things that I wanted to really go back and teach people to make sure that you got to understand how this works. So in the process, like I said, I was hospitalized. I found out I had a brain tumor. They gave me 5 years to live from my brain tumor. Well, I had just been introduced to that index account, which I decided to put $1 million on myself because I already understood that you want to make sure you have the right protection if anything happens. So I put $1 million on myself. I had the living benefit that states if I have a critical, chronic, or terminal illness, it pays me out 90% of that value. So that would have been $950,000 I would have been able to use in case I had a medical condition. But while I was going through it, and going through underwriting, I got sick. I woke up with a headache that changed my life, right? And so I was not approved for those products that I had applied for, because every time something happens to you, it goes up into your medical records when you're in a hospital. So while I'm going through underwriting, they're seeing neurologists and medication and all this, and so they shut me down. So now I have a pre-existing condition and no one will cover me. So from that passion, I knew that, at one time I was really sad about it. And I was like, why me, Lord? My life was going well. I had just found out new information, wanted to make sure that me and my sons were covered with that. And, my sons were still able to be covered up under those index accounts. In less than 12 years, they have over $1.2 million sitting in their account. But that was supposed to be me too, right? But since I got sick, and now I'm not, no one will approve me because I have a pre-existing condition. So that flared up that passion, that want to be able to get out there and make sure people know what they need to have, because we all think we're going to live forever, right? We all think that we know our birth date, but we don't know our death date. We don't know the day that we're going to get sick. So all of this fueled the passion of being able to get out to the communities and make sure that people understood a lot of these products and services that are not being taught to us. How do some people have medical issues and have some big medical issues and they never skip a beat? That's because they have the right products and services on themselves. And then you have others that have a medical issue and they lose everything. It could be breast cancer, it could be a stroke, critical, chronic, terminal illness, and they can lose everything, right? My bill alone in the hospital was over $400,000 that I was responsible for. And see, this stuff people don't understand, they don't know until you're in it, right? Until you're in it. And by that time, it's too late. So God is God, and he is awesome. Although man said I had 5 years, now I'm 7 years deep. I'm still alive. I'm still preaching the gospel. I'm still reaching out to people, and I'm still moving like, hey, I'm going to be here till I'm 100 years old. So that's
I have a
passion.
I have a question, and it relates back to who we are all about. We said we elevate. So my question to anyone that's on this in this roundtable: how do we elevate the masses so that they can understand how it is to create a legacy with wealth? But I want to understand how we can elevate the masses to help them to get there, because we can.
It first start with education. You know, we got to educate, because a lot of people don't understand. And then when you talk about these products and services, people think, oh, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and it doesn't. So
but I
that's
think
why
it's more than education. I think we have to do something almost different, if you will, because they still don't seem to be getting it, I guess is what I'm saying. But so recognizing that, I guess what you're saying, my thing in terms of elevating the masses would be to give them more education. I don't even know if they hear that or want to receive that. You know, we have Wealth Elevation Academy, and there's nothing there but education. And still, we have a hard time driving students to us. So what I want to know, what else can we do to elevate the masses so that they are understanding? We have to get to the point of understanding that there comes a time when we have to start building a legacy wealth, not just trying to create wealth, but we got to build legacy wealth.
Right. And so sometimes you can't drive them to a certain website or anything like that. Sometimes you got to get out there, and it has to be in person. People feel you when you're in person. So sometimes I have to go to the churches, I have to go to the community centers, I have to go to the schools and different places like that, because a lot of times, and also with the education, people are not reading. A lot of this stuff is held in books. You know, they put in a lot of books.
Well, now they're taking the books out of the schools. So, you know, they're removing a lot of the books. So you really have to have something up here.
Right. So, yeah, of course. But my thing is that you also have to be there in presence with some people. Everybody is different. Some people can learn from online. Some people need a instructor in front of them and educating them. Some people can learn on their own. So you have, from the massive, you know, it's almost like you have to bring in a group to be able to touch the masses. And
Okay,
so you got to
so your thing
understand.
is you think it's education and being present in the moment. Okay, somebody else, what do you think? How do we elevate the masses to understand how we build legacy wealth? Somebody, anybody.
I have a thought on that. And Kendra, you're a great storyteller. The most powerful
Yes.
thing of what you said to me was when you said your headache almost killed you. I don't know your exact words.
I woke up with a headache that changed my life.
It changed your life. And a friend of mine wrote a book called How My Vagina Almost Killed Me because she had vaginal cancer. But the stories are really powerful. And I think what you're right about is people don't think it's going to be them next. My dad was a derm surgeon and he was so shocked when he had a stroke because he didn't think, he was still working in his late 70s, that it would be him. My mother-in-law died Tuesday. She was a beautiful, elegant woman. Beautiful. Actually, it was the Wednesday before her funeral was this Tuesday, just 2 days ago. And we had a quintet, we had a bassoon player, we had an organ, we had a soprano soloist, we had 12 people in the choir, and they were all honoring this beautiful woman. You know, she wore a little 5-carat diamond ring and drove her pretty little car at one time. They built beautiful homes. But when you see someone in that state, you know they're not any different than anyone else. The week before, she was at the ballet. 2 weeks prior to that, she was somewhere else. She was watching the Elvis movie, and she died in her caretaker's arms taking a bath. I think the stories, I always tell people this, that fear of loss is the greatest motivator to change. If someone said to me, hey, Lael, you need to lose some weight, you're going to feel better. It ain't going to happen. If someone said to me, hey, Lael, you get diabetes, they may just take off your leg and you ain't going to be walking nowhere, friend. Signing up for a program, I'm ready to do something.
Exactly.
So I think that sometimes we have to make it more real for people with these incredible stories of what can happen if you don't. Not what will happen if you do, but what happens if you don't. With the Chaz Bosemans, there's so many successful people that have died fighting about money. I'll tell you this, my mother-in-law was very well taken care of by her estate planners. She had a CPA, she had a lawyer, she had a lot of people that took care of her. The funeral was Tuesday. My husband received an email on Wednesday saying, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. Aren't we fortunate that she had a group of people that really educated her and took care of her? She didn't make those decisions. She trusted enough in those people to make the decisions. And when people were she was experiencing financial elder abuse, I said, Gertrude, let's just give up all your check writing so people won't come to you for money. She was giving one daughter $8,000 to $18,000 a month for years. And I said, let's just go ahead and cut all that off. And where do you trust that you can put your money? It's stories like that that I think are so powerful, because I didn't think my mother-in-law was going to die last week. I didn't think that my father having a stroke, he was going to get out of the hospital, because that's what I really believed. He didn't get out of the hospital. So I think fear of loss, these incredible stories of truth. What happens if you don't plan? What happens if you don't have the right will? What happens if you don't have an attorney that reviews your documents? What happens if you don't sign properly? That fear is what motivates people to take action. People say, why do you teach that, Lael? Because it's true. Because it's really true.
And
so I like what everybody has said, because what we're really talking about here is everyone has gone through that fear, come out of the ashes, raise themselves up, that they experience that dread, they experience that fear. Well, what I always tell people is this: you got to walk up to the coffin and take a look, right? How do we elevate ourselves when we won't look? Women are notorious for not looking at their money. They don't want to know what's coming up. They don't want to know what's going out. It's sometimes easier not to look. I'm guilty too. But if you're really willing to go up and take a look and say, well, God, if I don't take a look, I may have a loss. I may not have enough. I may die on the streets. It's $15,000 a month in many places to be taken care of. Who's going to take care of me? So when you ask that question, Dr. Lee, about elevating, I think we've got to get women especially to take a look at their money.
Exactly. Because no one wants to open up their 401k statement because they know they're losing money, but you're going to keep letting it sit over there and pile up and not look at it until it's all gone. So now when people get with me, they lost $180,000 where it could have been saved So you finally decide to do something after you done lost $180,000.
That's true.
Also
And
think,
that's,
you almost have to take them by the hand and lead them there into understanding. I guess it goes back
only
to
if you,
what
if they
Leah
allow
was-
you to, only if they allow you to.
It's true, and it goes back to what Lael is saying about the fear. Everybody wants to leave a legacy. I would think, well, not everybody. Most people want to leave a legacy for their children. Well, if you don't create the wealth, it's not going to happen. Obviously, you can't. So maybe that that
And like
fear,
I was
that
saying, Dr.
fear
Lee,
of what am I gonna, what are my kids gonna have after I'm gone? It's not just your kids. It's not even almost even about your kids at this point. It's about your grandkids. You want that legacy to go on down the line, and so we have to figure out what is the best way to create legacy for the grandkids. And someone was on the other night and they were talking about we need to teach our kids. She bought her kid a house. So it may be that we need to take tangible things and put it in the hands while we're still here of our kids for our grandkids. It may be that we need to bring in mentors or bring in coaches or what have you. When they hear, Kendra, all of that awesome knowledge that you have, they kind of, a lot of them will just fall asleep. You know what I'm saying? When I say fall asleep, they're hearing you, but they're not hearing you. And it's critical for them to hear and understand. We, especially as Black people, mention understanding finance, we go in another direction.
right.
Dr.
I tell
O'Neill, you
people,
shaking your head, you
right,
moving your head.
Well, let me tell
basketball
you,
game,
white
I
people
think-
do the same thing, Dr. Lee. White people are in that same boat.
Okay, well, I don't know about white folks, but I
I can
definitely
tell you
know
about white people.
all right,
because
I
you
got
know, we
it.
say that all the time. We'll go and sit down and we'll go, if it's a financial event, 2 hours, they will not, but they go to a 5-hour basketball game. And the 2-hour
Exactly.
financial event is going to help them. So even like what we're doing now, we're mentoring to children, kids, to start them at a young age to start learning this.
Yeah,
Like
and that's
even
where
with my son,
the mentoring and the coaching come in. You probably have to start them just like they have to learn how to play tennis or golf at a very
exactly,
young age. We're gonna have to catch them at a very young age. What's that
Very
name of that game?
important, yeah.
Monopoly, and start
Right.
teaching them from. Go ahead, Dr. O'Neill.
Right. I think we got to learn to speak their language, because often when we're teaching people from where we are, and it becomes quite intimidating. So I think we have to, first of all, learn to meet people where they are. If we really want to get into the community, we got to get in there. We got to get down, dirty and muddy. Okay. And we have to meet people where they are. And then when we're dealing with young people, we have to learn their language. They understand money better than we think. I have a young person, I have a young person. And, I just learned to teach him at a level where he was. I learned his language. I mean, if it came down to buying a bicycle, well, let's talk about buying that bicycle. Let's go through the motions of buying that bicycle. By the time my son was 6 years old, he could balance the checkbook. Why? Because there were things he wanted. There were things that he wanted to accomplish. And so I learned very early on as a mother to learn his language, learn how he understands, because he doesn't necessarily understand like I do, just like I don't understand how Lael learns, or Kendra, or Dr. Lewis, or Nando, or even you. I mean, it's just, we have to learn to meet people where they are, and we have to learn to talk to our audience the target audience, learn how they understand. So it requires a lot of listening prior to us starting to educate. I mean, a lot of people don't even know what an index is.